We are going to talk some more NFL because the NFL owns the calendar pretty much 11 months of the year. They take July off, but they own it, and they own it 7 days a week during the football season. But on Tuesdays, good to talk some college football because we're so wrapped up in the NFL games from the day before on Monday. And Lauren Druhan, who used to be here at ESPN 630 and is now in Los Angeles or the Los Angeles area as her husband's job has transported them there. And she's away from her environment where she grew up in the South, where college football is king. But as we've talked about, enjoying the start times for college football games with West Coast time. It's great, isn't it? It's fabulous, right?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I love even with NFL now. I wake up, turn on game day at 6 a.m., make me a nice hot cup of coffee, wipe the sleep out of my eye, and just enjoy it from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep.
Yeah, you had a game this week from Germany, which started at 9:30 East Coast time, so it's 6:30 California time. I wonder how many people, what the rating would be in Los Angeles. Do you have any sense from, like, your neighbors? Were they up watching the game at that time?
You know, I'm not really sure. I have noticed that people on the West Coast just wake up later in general. Like,
okay.
I don't know what it is, but yeah, I don't really know. In our household, we for sure had that game on as soon as it started.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL has got to look at itself and say, boy, we shuffled off one of the great games of the year to a matchup that started at 6:30 on the West Coast. They care enough about the West Coast, as you know, having lived on both coasts, that they start the game so damn late here that they sacrifice some of us, like our old people who go to bed early, so they can have it for you. But it is what it is. Anyway, it was late for me, early for you. It started in the afternoon, and USC lost again, this time to Washington, 52-42, and this time Lincoln Riley had enough. He fired the Grinch. He fired the Grinch well before Christmas. The defensive coordinator, Alex Grinch, was fired. I don't know how much of that game you watched. I watched a lot of it. To me, it was, Lauren, it's unbelievable what we were seeing. It seemed like a 7-on-7 passing drill. How'd you feel about it?
Yeah, same. I didn't watch a whole lot of it, but poor Caleb Williams. Like, somebody get this guy a defense. I mean, you can't do much more. You know what I mean? It's awful. Honestly, I don't know how Lincoln Riley went over to, like, I don't know. I just feel like he would have had a more well-rounded team put together by now than he does. So this does really shock me because it is very, very lopsided to me what they have going on at USC. So I don't know what they're going to do, but it was very sad to see.
Well, I think it's an example of how the transfer portal isn't the be-all, end-all. And Riley had Grinch with him at Oklahoma. So what he attempted to do was basically transfer his whole operation from Oklahoma to Southern California. And he brings his top-notch quarterback with him and Caleb Williams, and he still brings his defensive coordinator, but they don't have all the Oklahoma defensive players. They even got a couple of good transfers like this Georgia lineman, Bear Alexander, and Oklahoma State linebacker Mason Cobb, but they still stink. And,
right.
You played enough team sports to know that, you have to kind of build it brick by brick, and that's not what they did. And even all the hysteria that we had about Colorado in the beginning of the season, right? They're back to earth too, right?
Yeah. I mean, it is true. The transfer portal is not the be-all, end-all. It'll be really interesting to see the shuffles that are made this offseason, to see how some of these teams, get to where they need to be. Because a lot of the teams, I feel like, Andy, are right there. Like, they are right there. They are a couple key players, a couple of, new coaches away to having it all the way put together. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see next year with the expanded college football playoffs, all the different, conference shuffling going around. I don't know. I think next year is going to be really, really fun.
Before we move on to the playoff projection, we've got the new rankings coming out tonight. This has been a hot sports radio topic for the last few days, and it's mostly men yapping about this. And that's Caleb Williams going into the stands and crying with his parents after they lost the game. Give us a female perspective on what you saw in that.
I mean, my heart really broke for him because if you have ever played a sport at a high level, you know when you are going out there and put it, because I mean these guys are in college too. I think some people forget that. Like these guys are going to school, they have tests, and then they're traveling, they're on the road, they're also playing at such a high level of football, and this guy is putting himself on the line every week and putting in the work every week, and for him to do that and then get beat the way that they have, I feel like he is just at his wit's end. I think he's had enough, and the exhaustion and the heartbreak is exactly what you saw. And being in your mom's arms too, I feel like that does a lot for anybody really. But I feel like he was just probably broken that moment. And when you're already trying to hold everything together and you get a hug from your mom, I feel like everything just goes out the window. So yeah, I had a lot of empathy for him there.
Here's what I think about his NFL prospects off of that. I mean, there was a lot of discussion after they lost their second game. Okay, that's it. Might as well shut him down, get him ready for the NFL draft. And Lincoln Riley said, no, he's even more motivated to get this team back on track. Now, this is a guy who's already making a lot of money on the NIL deals that he has. He's going to make even more money when he goes to the NFL, and he can only really hurt his chances right now because of injury or another bad performance by his team, not by him. I mean, he's putting up plenty of points. And I think, to me, if I'm a general manager of an NFL team, I say, boy, that guy really cares, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. The fight in him is really great, and that translating to the NFL, it's going to be like, is this guy going to give up? We see it in the bowl games. Understandably, you don't want to get injured, but
yep.
You still have a lot of season left, with college. So I don't know. I think him staying in is good. I think there's still a lot for him to learn. So yeah, I like to see him still fighting to stay in it.
Okay, let's get to the rankings, and we're talking to Lauren Druhan, a college football fan, lover of the game out on the West Coast, and watching what's happening. Last week, Ohio State in the first college playoff rankings was number 1. They had somewhat of a struggle with Rutgers winning 35-16. Georgia at home, and Ohio State was on the road. Georgia didn't exactly have a cakewalk with Missouri, even though Missouri is ranked number 12. They won 30-21. I heard Reese Davis say yesterday he thinks Georgia will be number 1 tonight. What do you think?
I would not be surprised to see that. I also really would not be surprised if they continue to put Ohio State first. But with that win at home against Missouri, a ranked team, the conversation has been, well, Ohio State's resume is better. Well, Georgia's got a couple good wins, and the ones that they have been winning have been blowouts on some teams too. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I think Georgia will probably take over that number 1 spot. We'll see. Yeah,
and that the only thing that really matters, they're going to be in unless, they have 2 losses, but they're going to be in, and it's just a matter of who they match up at number 4. What's lurking here, and it seems we have this every year, but Alabama, after that early season loss to Texas, was kind of forgotten. Well, they've continued to win, and they won again against LSU, and I would want to see it. I don't know about you, but I would want to see if we got to the college, and this is the last year, I think we have the 4, it goes to 12 next year. I would like to see a first-round matchup between Alabama and Georgia, even though we've seen it 100 times. I think that would be something that people would gravitate to.
Yeah, I think SEC matchups in general are just fun to watch.
Yeah, right.
2 really great teams. Andy, I also would really not hate to see it against Oregon. I think Oregon's put together a great team there with Bo Nix. I wouldn't hate to see that game either. But yeah, I know Georgia, Alabama is always just super fun to watch.
Yeah, I think that would be, and people say, oh, we're tired of that. We see that every year, but I think it's cool. And just my feeling, I think this might be the year that Saban comes back and he beats Kirby Smart. Because I think, too much dominance is bad, but when you have something like that happens, I think people get really excited about it, especially since it'll be Saban, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, with Saban's record shows that, you know, not many times does he get dominated. You
Yeah.
know, he typically does bounce back. So that game would be extremely interesting if it does happen.
All right. Last week, we went through the greatest wins in Auburn history, Lauren, a lifelong Auburn fan. So I've got a list of their most crushing losses. You gave us wonderful memories last week of the great wins. Time for the crushing losses. You ready?
Okay, can I just tell you my most crushing loss
Sure.
before you get started here?
Absolutely.
So the all-time most crushing loss that I have ever experienced as an Auburn football fan was in 2018. Unbeknownst to me, I was about to get engaged to my now husband.
Mm-hmm.
We were watching. It was down to the gun, and Auburn was up. We were going to win. We had the biggest chance to win. We were going to. And LSU kicks a last-minute field goal as time expires to win. And I have never been more mad. My husband was never more nervous. He thought that I was legitimately going to say no when he asked me to marry him. That is the most devastating loss I have ever had as a college football fan, and one of the best days of my life.
Yeah.
Altogether.
That's right. Best day, worst day. That's exactly what that is. And that is number 5 on the list. Auburn was ranked 7 in the country. They came into this game as 10-point favorites. They had Jared Stidham at quarterback, right? Wasn't he the quarterback then?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so LSU has a transfer who nobody's heard of named Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow, yep.
Yeah. So, and as you say, Auburn led at one point 21-10, 10 minutes left in the third quarter. They were given a 90% chance of winning. Auburn led a 71-yard touchdown pass, slipped through their fingers, committed several defensive pass interference penalties as Cole Tracy kicked the game-winning field goal as time expired. So that's number 5.
And Cole Tracy that year was not good.
Yeah.
He wasn't that great. So that was also devastating for him to kick the game winner. Anyways.
Okay. Well, that's good. Well, it's good. When you have children, you can tell them about what a moment that was when that happened. All right, 2018, that same season, Auburn was ranked 21, and they were it's at the end of the year, so there's disappointment, but they were 14.5-point favorites against Tennessee, and you lost that game 30-24. Remember that?
Yep, I sure did.
Yeah, that's kind of after the fact. I think the LSU thing is more important in there. Then they list the Peach Bowl in 2017. I don't know if you can list a Peach Bowl as a disappointment because people check out, but Auburn was ranked 7. They were 10.5-point favorites against UCF. Now, UCF was, that kind of mid-major team that went undefeated, and because they beat Auburn in that game, they claimed they were national champions, which, they weren't. But,
I vividly remember that.
Yeah, so you hold it. All right, this is far back. I don't know if you can go back. Do you go back to 2006? Go back that far, or is that too far for you?
A little bit. It's hazy. But some, I do remember.
All right, Arkansas 2006. Auburn was ranked 2 in the country, 13.5-point favorites, and they got their doors blown off, 27-10. So, and here's the kicker on that. The play caller for Arkansas in that game, the offensive coordinator, Gus Malzahn. So that's why guys. Yeah, that's why guys get hired too. If they beat you like that. 2016, playing Georgia, Auburn's ranked 9, 10-point favorites, lost to Georgia in 2016. So that's I guess the early days of Kirby Smart. Lost that game 13-7. 7 points. That's not good. Also, 2006 was a bad one. Here's the one that they ranked number 1. You should remember this. Texas A&M, 2014. I think that was Johnny Manziel, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, anyway, Auburn was ranked 3 in the country, and the spread was 23.5. 23.5. And this is I think why college football for some is so much better than the NFL, because you have these kind of games where the spread is just, you don't have 23-point spreads in the NFL generally, but you have them in college, and it was a shootout, which Texas A&M won 41-13. Auburn trailed the entire game, but a comeback seemed like a foregone conclusion. And Nick Marshall ran 2 touchdowns in, threw for another. They were clicking, but it wasn't meant to be. A late fumble near the goal line, followed by a large blunder with a snap, gave the game to the Aggies. And it's the largest upset in Auburn history. So there you go.
And it's one of those where it's like, why is Gus Malzahn still our head coach? That was the story of Auburn for a while. I'd be like, oh my gosh, this guy's amazing, and then it's like, we shouldn't even be on the same field as these people. What's going on?
Yeah. Well, I don't think anybody turns on their coach faster than an SEC football fan, right? I mean,
1,000%. Yeah, we are definitely always super quick. We might fire and rehire a guy 3 times in a matter of one game.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
exactly.
For sure.
Well, it's November, and you're too young to remember this, but this used to be the home stretch of the college season. Like, they play the Army-Navy game on Thanksgiving weekend, they'd shut down for a month, and then play the bowl games on New Year's Day. But this is 2023, so we got, 2 full months of football left, right? 2 full months of college football.
Yeah, exciting. Yeah.
Very good. So we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks, Andy.
Lauren Druhan on the West Coast, our West Coast college football correspondent. Always fun to talk to her.